Now, for more on Latin America's changing political landscape, I'm joined by Peter Hakim. He's President Emeritus and Senior Fellow at the Inter-American Dialogue right here in Washington. Welcome back to the show, Peter.
Thank you very much.
So let's take a look at the situation. We have Brazil and Argentina. Macri was voted in, obviously Temer was not. Now, how much of a difference does that make to the business community when it comes to people who want to invest in those countries?
Well, I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference for investors, frankly.
Why is that?
Well, investors are looking after interest rates and returns and security and risk. And sure, a democratic government on the whole over time is probably a safer bet. But they are looking for investment opportunities first and foremost. Governance is a secondary consideration, I'm afraid.
Now, we did see that stock markets in both countries were boosted on the news. So is that a sign that the business community is actually behind this, or is it more a question of having that certainty?
Well, the question is, what is it behind? In other words, I heard this story, the move from right to left, or left to right, sorry. Yeah, and that's happening. I mean, clearly the government in Argentina is more conservative. The new government in Brazil will be more conservative. But it really has to do with more than ideology. It has to do with performance. And governments that have performed well, and it was a lot easier to perform well when the economies were booming, when the value of commodities was high, in Venezuela, when the value of their petroleum exports was sky high, and it was a lot easier to show a level of confidence, growth. It's the economy. And in Brazil and Argentina, the economy was in terrible shape. Argentina had the second highest inflation rate in all of Latin America. Brazil has had 2 years of deep recession now. This is what turns people away, poor performance, not so much ideology. Lula, previous left-wing government, was lauded for his excellence as a manager and a leader.
That's very true. And now, in terms of other countries which perhaps could be ripe for a shift, you have Venezuela's leftist president, Nicolas Maduro, with his emergency decree with the government now taking on more powers.
He's sort of a declared leftist rather than anything that would be recognizable.
Now how is that different then?
Well, I mean, he's adopted this term of, what is it, 21st century socialism. There's hardly any socialism really in Venezuela. It's like I say, it was a prominent tag, and it's more anti-U.S. than sort of a defining ideology.
Now, with that being said, Venezuela is still tackling sky-high inflation, and people are getting fed up having to, it's basically unaffordable for people to get basic goods. What's your outlook for Venezuela?
Venezuela is nearing a collapse, a total collapse. The two parts of the political system, the government and the opposition, are really living on different planets, and the government simply refuses to recognize that its rather poor economic management is responsible for a lot of Venezuela's problems, not all of them. And the opposition doesn't seem to recognize that 30% of the people, 25% of the people think they're better off than they were before. So you have really a less than fully competent opposition and a totally incompetent government, and it's not good for the country. It is headed towards the ice is cracking, as someone said.
Goodness. Well, also, another thing that's growing in the region is this anti-corruption sentiment. People are becoming more frustrated, and it's obviously not just a problem that's limited to South America. What role do you think that frustration, though, is playing in the shifting in the political landscape?
Well, we have to be careful again about this. Brazil has had a massive corruption scandal, absolutely massive. Corruption has been a part of political life in Brazil, corporate life in Brazil. But it grew, it ballooned out of shape, and it really has now interfered very greatly. More than half of the Congress, for example, are people tainted by corruption in one form or another. And then you have in Chile, there was incidents, political corruption. But somehow one gets the feeling that this has been going on for a long time, and people are now paying slightly more attention. But you know, there's 18 countries in Latin America, and only 3 or 4 has there really been a serious scandal, a serious effort to get at corruption.
So people should be careful about tarring
one.
everyone with the same
Argentina
brush.
is beginning, perhaps, but for many years, no one seemed to care. And certainly in a place like Mexico, corruption is rampant and very little activity. So I would, like I say, there's some examples, and they're good examples, and it's heartening to see, but it's certainly not a regional trend quite yet, or at least I would be reluctant to see it as such.
All right, well, unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us, Peter Hakim, for the Inter-American Dialogue.
Thank you very much.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, CCTV-America.com.